Resolution recommended.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to emergency business.
Is there a second? Second. Rules are suspended and moved to emergency business, beginning with bill allocating funds to men's club lacrosse. I'd like to ask Senator Croxford and any members from club lacrosse who may be here to please come on.
So this is kind of a funny bill because they didn't find out about this event till after we did supplementals last week.
Yeah.
So we had to allocate the money to them in advance. And their amount is also conditionally allocated. It's going to zero out their account first and then allocate up to $2,800 towards this expense that they had to incur, which they can talk about.
So we don't get to find out whether or not we make our national tournament until like this late in the season. So it's just worked out that by the time we found out we couldn't submit it. So that's why we
How'd it go?
it went. We lost, but last year, last year we made it to the Final Four. So we were hoping to make back this year, but it was a tough game.
You guys can be here.
Yeah.
I'll read. Yeah. Bill allocating funds to men's club lacrosse. Whereas men's club lacrosse is requesting $4,200 to fund a charter bus to participate in round 1 of nationals in Fairfield, Connecticut. Whereas the club is in good standing with the Club Affairs Committee, adheres to SGA financial policies, and makes strong fundraising efforts. Whereas this competition will allow the club to compete at a higher level, represent the University of Vermont, and reward members for excellent performance. Let it be known that the University of Vermont Student Government Association Senate supports a conditional allocation of $2,800 towards men's club lacrosse based on remaining balances in their accounts.
Any questions for Senator Croxford or club lacrosse, beginning with Senator Bouffard?
Yeah, I understand that you both already received the money or will be zeroing out for this. Just wanted to thank you both for coming in today to be present.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll bring the bill to a vote. All those in favor signify by hand raised.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The bill is passed. We'll now move on to bill allocating funds to softball.
Another kind of funny little bill. We didn't know about it till this weekend because they just qualified, and it's going to be another conditional amount where it's going to zero out their accounts and then give up to this allocated amount based on after all the credit card statements go through, because in the finance office it doesn't get factored in until like a month later into their accounts, credit card statements. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, so we went to the regional tournament in Pennsylvania this last weekend. It was the first time that club softball has qualified for postseason play ever. And we ended up placing second at the regional tournament, which qualified us for national tournament. We're super excited, and that is what we're doing.
Questions or comments? After Senator Croxford reads the list.
Bill allocating funds to club softball. Whereas club softball is requesting $6,000 to participate in nationals held in Columbus, Georgia. Whereas the club is in good standing with the Sullivan Affairs Committee, financial policies, and makes strong fundraising efforts. Whereas this competition will allow the club to compete at a high level, represent the University of Vermont, and reward members for their performance. Let it be known that the University of Vermont Student Government Association Senate supports a conditional allocation of up to $4,100 towards club softball based on the remaining balances.
Questions for Senator Croxford or club softball? Seeing none, we'll bring the bill to a vote. All those in favor, please signify with hand raised.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Bill is passed.
Motion to return to old business.
Second. We'll now return to old business, beginning with resolution
resolution recommending repurposing surplus funds from the peer advisory/mentoring program. Whereas during FY15, the Student Government Association, henceforth known as SGA, at the University of Vermont agreed to create and fund the Peer Advising and Mentoring Program, PAM, through FY20 in order to provide reliable and easily accessible academic and career advising to undergraduate students through a network of qualified and passionate peer advisors. Whereas the SGA allocated the PAM program $170,000 each year with the intention for the program to scale up from its beginning in FY16 until FY20 so as to develop the resources necessary to reach more students over time. Whereas with Bill number 14, every year the PAM program accumulates a cost less than $170,000, then the extra funds will be encumbered by the SGA and reserved for supplementing program costs through FY20 as the scope and scale of the program augments. Whereas the PAM program did not scale as originally intended and the current surplus in rollover from FY16, FY17, and FY18 is $139,454.54. The net balance for FY19 and FY20 is to be determined. Let it be known that the SGA has determined the peer advising and mentoring as it stands does not fulfill its original mission. Let it be known that advising at UVM is not equitable across colleges, departments, minority groups, etc. Let it be known that our common ground values equitable treatment of all students when it states that UVM values fairness and unite against all forms of injustice and challenge any injustice toward any member of our community. Be it resolved that SGA at UVM will discontinue funding the PAM program after FY20. Be it resolved that SGA will provide the PAM program up to $161,200 for FY20. Be it resolved that SGA will allocate $5,000 of the $161,200 directly to the engineering peer mentoring program headed up by Marnie Owens for FY20, contingent upon the engineering department matching that amount and continued data collection about success benchmarks of the program. Be it resolved that the SGA will distribute the supplemental funding of FY16, FY17, FY18, FY19, and FY20 to one or more advising initiatives aimed at improving the quality and equity of advising across the entire university. Be it further resolved that the selection initiative will be determined by a working group composed of President Scannell, Chair Dana, and SGA Advising Project Coordinator Chase Forsyth.
Questions? Chair Parker.
Thank you guys for working on this and writing it. This might be a nitty-gritty thing. After the first be it resolved, should the rest say be it further resolved, or does it have whatever?
I have no idea, I just guessed.
Anyone have input ideas? I think it might be supposed to be it further resolved, but that can be changed afterwards. Just so it's okay.
Further questions? Seeing none, we'll bring the resolution to a vote. All those in favor, by an aye and hand raise.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We'll now move on to the resolution extending deep appreciation to E. Thomas Sullivan and Leslie Sullivan. If I could ask Chair Gomez, please come up, and Senator Lowry.
Hey everyone, so this piece of legislation is exactly what it sounds like. It's just extending appreciation to President Sullivan and Leslie for the work that they've dedicated to the university. It's modeled off of another piece of legislation a few years back towards the former CEO and president of the foundation, Rich Bundy. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask after you finish. Resolution extending deep appreciation to E. Thomas Sullivan and Leslie Black Sullivan, class of 1977, for their commitment and service to the University of Vermont and SGA. Whereas the Student Government Association acknowledges how positively the Office of the President impacts the university and its students.
Whereas E. Thomas Sullivan, henceforth referred to as Tom Sullivan, dedicated a successful 7-year tenure as the University of Vermont's 26th president.
Whereas through his leadership as president of the University of Vermont, Tom Sullivan has bolstered the university's profile and acclaim as a premier research university.
Whereas Tom Sullivan has shown an unwavering commitment to the financial vitality of the university, and under his leadership, the university reached its $500 million fundraising goal and the largest in the university's university's history, nearly 1 year ahead of schedule.
Whereas Tom Sullivan has transformed the physical landscape of the university, overseeing over 20 building projects, including, but not limited to, an integrated creative arts center, 2 new STEM buildings, and a residence hall in Central Campus.
Whereas Leslie Black Sullivan has shown continuous personal investment and support for her alma mater and its philanthropy, especially in the arts.
Whereas the UVM Student Government Association commends Leslie Black Sullivan's extensive involvement in nonprofit work and spirit of volunteerism throughout the university.
Let it be known, Tom Sullivan and Leslie Black Sullivan have significantly impacted the UVM student experience for the better.
Let it be known that the University of Vermont Student Government Association Senate, on behalf of all UVM students, expresses its deepest appreciation for the dedication to excellence, commitment to inclusion, and visionary leadership exhibited by Tom Sullivan and Leslie Black Sullivan to the university and SGA, and wish them happiness, health, and success in their future.
Questions for Chair Gomez and Senator Riley, beginning with Senator Cummings.
Hi. I have a question about whether we have passed a resolution like this for past presidents who have stepped down.
That's a great question. From my understanding, I don't know if there's another resolution similar to this. Like I said, the one that mirrors this most closely is the one to CEO and former president of the UVM Foundation, which is a different, whole different realm of the university. But if you want, we can take a look at that after.
Senator Bouffard.
Point of information, yes, there has been resolutions passed in the past, similar to this, where we just thank someone for their long tenure at the university.
Senator Bouffard.
Yeah, my question is along similar lines. Why it's in the form of a resolution, if there are more appropriate avenues like a Facebook announcement or something like that. I'm curious why it has to be a SGA voted on resolution, and my concern being sort of sourced in, I have my personal, maybe some disdain for, personally have met Tom Sullivan multiple times and appreciate the work that he's done, but I recognize that there are some concerns from some students who may not particularly be fond of him, and may be concerned with the language saying on behalf of all students. So that's just where I'm sort of curious why it is in the form of resolution. This may be tradition, why it's a tradition, etc. So if you could elucidate, thank you.
I think it would just be like a really nice way to show our appreciation. Feel free to vote no if you want to. But we have put work into this and we would appreciate a yes vote. And I just think it would be a really nice show of gratitude from the SGA as an organization.
I also just want to add, we are one of the few advocacy organizations that works directly with the president. So having this codified, I think, says a lot. And it is a marker, of tradition too. But it's I think it's really special, especially since we're in continuous communication and work with him all throughout the year.
Senator Gass.
Great work, you two. I'm going to agree a little with Senator Bouffard. Do you think it would be more appropriate and more effective if it was just sent as like a handwritten letter from the SGA, just saying we care about you, thank you for your commitment to us, etc. Because I feel like just sending him this document, it's gonna be like, oh, it's another SGA resolution. But if it's just like a handwritten letter, I feel like it would mean more to him, signed by all of us, something like that. I don't know. Not to take away from all the work you've done.
I'm going to put myself on the speaking order and yield the floor to President Scannell.
Yes, I totally get where we're coming from. And we can also look at the language if people feel uncomfortable with the language. It says on behalf of all students. As was mentioned, this is sort of like a tradition that happens, and we can also send him a card, and we went to his going away celebration, and we've been meeting with him. But it is more of just a tradition thing. We have it in the history, the record of legislation. So I support the passing of this, but I'm more than happy. I'm sure we can make amendments to language if people would like that.
Chair Dana.
That was what I was going to say, is perhaps if we took out on behalf of all students, we just say as an organization, because that's kind of what it sounds like, is we work with President Sullivan as an organization. Maybe as an organization we can say thank you for not representing all of you.
As an organization that represents the student body.
So just to kind of respond to you, the bill that we modeled this after had the exact same language. So we kind of just took that and applied it over here. Understand that views change, but I just want to give everyone the context that we're just modeling it almost identically to what has been shown in the past.
Senator Short.
What everyone else said. Literally.
Chair Friedman.
Pass.
Senator Berry.
Just small point of information, provides any context. Vermont State Legislature passed a resolution thanking him for service as well, so I don't think it's unreasonable for us to avoid something like this.
Any further questions or comments before bringing the bill to the resolution to a vote? Seeing none, all those in Senator Short.
Did we change the language or?
Yeah, I just took out the line on behalf of all UVM students.
Does it mention that anywhere else in the bill?
As how possibly the Office of the President impacts the university and its students.
I'm wondering if instead of, first, thank you for making this. Second, I'm wondering if instead of making a value judgment about how he's benefited students, you could just say, positively the Office of the President impacts the university community.
Sure.
Just call it a day, because even if that's encapsulating the faculty and staff, I mean, you're getting a message across, but then if there's somebody who comes up to you, you can say, well, look at the legislation, we didn't say that because of that reason.
Further questions and comments?
The university community.
Any other comments on the wording of the legislation? All right, now bring the resolution to a vote. All those in favor, please signify with an aye and a hand raise. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Resolution's passed. Point of information, Senator Cummins, thank you for that. That's actually something I'd like to bring up. You don't need to say anything if you're opposed or are abstaining. For your own comfort, you're welcome to them. Just for everybody. All right, we'll now move on to emergency business with resolution of the Vermont Student Government Associations. If I could ask the Senator Sullivan, please come up.
We should have like a little fashion runway. Just as I spread it, we pay $10 because they'll pay zero. Yes. Check whatever. You can see how good you got. Yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So, here's a wonderful resolution. I'm just going to quickly change the wording of it real quick based on Chair Parker's comments earlier to include the further resolve, just getting it out of the way. In the meantime, I'll explain a little bit about it. Back in February, I attended a student government conference, had Vice President Emeritus Jillian McIntyre. Advised, sort of sent it to us in an email saying, hey, St. Michael's College over in Colchester is hosting this event. We've been invited to attend, and we would love to show up. I ended up being the UVM representative there. It was a few hours long, such conversation. It was lovely. Everybody was superb. And so the point of this resolution and the sort of what it is about, why it's being introduced in emergency business is two-part. First off, it's a lot about sort of community and sort of our relationship with it. Because when you think of community, it sometimes can be considered in a smaller sense. So for example, the SGA community or the UVM community or the Burlington community. This is just taking that and making it a bit broader. That's also in part why the name is what it is, the resolution of Vermont Student Government Associations, and saying all these different student organizations and advocacy groups exist in different colleges, and we want to try and establish them there with communications. And then the second part, why it's an emergency business, is because it's the second to last week of classes, last week formally, and then finals. To get it passed gives about 3 months, 4 months worth of time in order to go over it. So, reading this. Whereas on the 23rd of February 2019, St. Michael's College in Colchester, Vermont, held a student government conference that sought to bring student government associations, and it's what's called an SGA, together across Vermont. Whereas 4 institutions, SGAs, attended this conference, those being St. Michael's College, Champlain College, Norwich University, and the University of Merson, and called UVM. Whereas this event held 4 workshops on topics relevant to each institution's SGAs, with those workshops being conflict resolution in the SGA, community engagement, diversity in the SGA, and SGA and community well-being. Whereas this conference was beneficial for all those who attended, as it allowed for a diversity of opinions and perspectives to be shared, which was especially helpful in sharing how each SGA tackled the issues highlighted in the activation workshops. Whereas the Secretary of Student Policy for St. Michael's SGA, in reflecting on the success of the conference, sent an email that it would be great to have another SGA conference for Vermont sometime next semester. Whereas they also said that Champlain is also interested in hosting. Champlain is also interested in hosting a conference in the fall. It would be great to work together and determine a rotation schedule. Be resolved that in order to form a strong bond with the other SGAs of our state, the UVM SGA shall work to establish a better network of communications with its neighboring SGAs at St. Michael's College, Norwich University, and especially with Champlain College. Be it further resolved that the UVM SGA shall consider hosting an SGA conference for the upcoming autumn semester with the intention of inviting the 3 aforementioned SGAs, Middlebury College, Gauthier University, and any other SGA who express desire to participate. Be it further resolved that a working committee shall be established by the author of this resolution to facilitate and organize the event, of which all in the UVM SGA are invited to help in planning it, and in which the Champlain College SGA will be contacted to determine if they would like to come to the event. Be it further resolved, all participation will not be made mandatory for the proposed SGA conference or any subsequent conference. Attendance will be highly encouraged given the magnitude of such an event. Be it further resolved that should this proposed SGA conference prove successful and participants wish to continue further collaborative events, this resolution shall be reintroduced to the Senate floor at a future date, proposing the SGA conference as a permanent event. Be it further resolved that this resolution will be sent out to the 3 aforementioned institutions to inform them of our desire to further collaborate and work together in the future. That's good enough. I'm open to feedback. I'm open to start reworking the resolution. I hope it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, questions.
We'll begin questions with senators.
Can you go to the second, be it further resolved?
Second, be it further resolved?
Actually, it's the first.
Okay.
It's the first be it resolved, sorry. I would just get rid of, and especially with Champlain College, because I don't think it's necessary for us to like specify that we're giving like a favor to one college over the other.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's originally like a second be it resolved, now be it further resolved, where I was kind of thinking about the fact that Champlain College is also part of like the Burlington community, and I feel like having like that like sort of network with communications sort of seems like pretty like more beneficial, you know, like more minds to the same projects. Not to be
Chair Parker.
I just want to thank you for taking the initiative in writing this. I think it's great that we work with other SGAs in Vermont, especially in the direct Burlington community. Having worked with other SGAs in general recently, I think it's valuable that we continue to do that. So thank you.
Senator Allen.
Okay, I also want to thank you for doing this reason. I also want to mention that I believe Vermont Tech College, Randolph, also has an SGA.
I forgot that Vermont Tech. Is there any just Vermont Tech or Vermont Tech College?
Senator Weinstein.
Thank you for working on the bill. For that, same be it further resolved, just maybe say upcoming fall semester. I also don't know, like, I kind of, this is my personal feeling that it maybe we should just say in general, like, New England universities or colleges, because I don't like, I mean, we can specify it, of course, but I don't think we should, I think it might be worthwhile to just, like, at a later date, make a list of New England colleges who might have any interest in this to send it out. Like, even Boston schools, I feel like, would have a vested interest if they wanted, if they felt the need to drive up for student government conference in New England, and then we can just kind of further branch this out to other schools in our region.
I like that. Anybody else like that idea?
Senator Thomas.
Hi, Senator Serna. This is awesome. But I do have a question about, like, what sort of work this conference would be wanting to do. Would it be the same sort of panels that you talked about earlier on in the resolution, and like who would that fall on to set up the programming?
Thank you. That's point that Senator Weinstein brought up. Sort of the goal of this, basic idea is to bring the community together, but it also wants to like tackle certain like problems and issues that we have as a university, as like an initiative. Like, for example, I'll bring up a hypothetical in order to make the point. Let's say we have like some administrative folks who are the best, like sort of cooperative. And I remember at least at that conference, there was like a point where we're sitting around the table talking about the different ways that we deal with administrative people and how we can sort of best communicate as a whole, especially sort of we want to against interest. Maybe a good example I can bring up is with Norwich. That's a military school, and you can already sort of figure out like the challenges there are kind of sort of like what we have here is sort of amplified further with like sort of the culture that exists with like a military style school, and sort of how they can sort of like listening to them and seeing how they're able to persevere is also like an inspiring thing, but also seeing like what avenues and what techniques they brought. Sort of with this thing, so there's a two-part. One is want to accomplish, and then who has like sort of is that correct? Again, once accomplished, sort of like asking the main questions that we have as like, let's say the questions we have as the UVM SGA in sort of implementing goals on campus. So let's say, for example, how can we have a better working relationship with the community where they feel like they can come to us for advocacy, or how can we uplift them? How can we help students from minority groups feel more like welcome and secure? That's like sort of one bit. There's, again, only bringing this up, I think this is a question. At least with those four, I felt like they were really good in that they each had sort of their own like different ideas of what they wanted to like accomplish, but like the conversation also allowed people to have like different topics and opinions. What's sort of the burden? There's like a two-part for that. Again, with the way, like I said, for it as a working committee, where everybody hears about it at Champlain College's SGA, is that I know a lot of people are like really heavily involved, want to like sort of like attend to such like matters and find the answers for that. So that would be one bit where I sort of know like there's already going to be like a community who would want to help with something like this. The other thing is like how about like sort of like space, like where do we host a conference, how many people is going to be involved, food, like catering, like the cost of all that. Again, the working committee is going to be a big part of that, and sort of like helping to digest this, especially with like the summer period now available, hopefully, which is like 3 or 4 months. I'm saying that I feel like it might be best to have like this conference in like October if we wanted to give like more of a grounding to it. But like having this, having these few months to sort of like digest that and sort of figure out where we can sort of reserve the space, who can be involved, like what needs to be done, all that. Does that answer the question?
Yep.
Chair Frieden.
Hi, I'm really happy. This is really great. My one question is, you talked about how for this year, you being the person who wrote this, you'd be a coordinator, but for ongoing years, this is something you see happening again. Who's going to get the time if you're not here?
I understand. That would ultimately have to be something that I introduced it in, goodness, I can't even remember. I introduced it in the second to last one, where we sort of talked about what will happen after this. Again, with this resolution, I sort of want to take on the initiative for this, sort of knowing that the takeaways that are having the connections I have, so I can also like reach out to the same this college and they say, how did you feel about this? What was like the sort of difficulties? What was the easiest? How do you feel about it? So what would you improve on? It's sort of like, first part is like, having the connections would ultimately sort of help it like needs that facilitator. In the future, when sort of rewriting this resolution, that is like a big question. As it is like a community sort of oriented event, I'd imagine like Polka would have an investment, an interest in investing in this, but we can obviously like talk about this and figure out a single person, probably a chair.
Further questions on the legislation?
Just a really minor thing, but Senator Weinstein brought up changing autumn to fall, and I also support that.
And actually, thank you for bringing that up. I didn't finish changing this. How about we say with the intention of inviting the 3 aforementioned SGAs, as well as any New England colleges interested in participating?
New England institutions of higher education, colleges is limiting to like universities theoretically.
So as well as any New England, let's say Northeast. The only reason why is I can think of like Plattsburgh, New York for some reason. Higher education facilities, you said? Sorry. Let's just do that.
Institutions of higher education?
We can get into the specific wording of this phrasing after the meeting.
Is that hyphenated?
Chair Dan.
Along with wording, is it, this is a general question, in what scenario would you use like chair or senator's name versus the person like in charge of this resolution?
I'm really sorry. May you repeat that?
So, sorry, it's just a wording thing, we can deal with it later.
Regarding like the author of this.
Yes. Wait, so in which, sorry, in the resolution we just passed, like this is a curiosity thing, the resolution we just passed, we use like Chair Dana and liaison enforcement. In what circumstances would you use names versus the author of this resolution?
Oh, I felt like that was just like a formality case, just referring to. If you'd like, I can change it to say Senator Serna. There's not that concern is important. Would we like to do that? Would we like to do that?
It's totally blown out of proportion, but no worries.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll bring the resolution to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? The resolution passes. We will now move on to new business. Is there any new business? No new business. Now move on to executive reports, beginning with my own. I'll give the gavel to Vice President. Good evening, everyone. We've been enjoying the sunny weather today. It's been raining all week. So I spent the week settling into my role. Thank you all for bearing with me. It's been putting the case out early. Placards, I spent a bit of the week updating people's placards. If you do not have pronouns on yours, if you would like them, please let me know. Other than that, I've been working on my version of parliamentary procedure and Robert's rules. I'll send a copy of that out to the exec team in the next few days and then get back to it in the fall. And the time between when I send that out and our fall retreat will be a commenting period on. So anyone who has questions on it, anything they're not concerned about, anything they want changed, we can sort that out in September. Public forum guests, it's a little early to be thinking about this for the fall, but if you have anyone in mind for public forum guests, already scheduled 2 or 3 for September and October. So please send those my way. I definitely want to have a full roster of guests. And lastly, I hope you all have an enjoyable and relaxing summer. I'll be here in Burlington, so if you're around, feel free to say hi. And that concludes my report. Any questions and comments?
Questions for the speaker? Seeing none, are you back to the speaker?
We'll now move on to Vice President's report.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great start to your week. First, the retreat is, the date is finalized for September 14th to 15th of September. It is mandatory, so put that in your agendas and your calendars now. and let me know if there's something coming up that about, maybe a wedding or something that weekend, so we can kind of schedule around that. I'm also looking for people to get band certified so we can get there with the SGA bands. If you're interested in being band certified, please come see me after the meeting. We have a few other people that have already reached out, so no pressure. We don't need people, but if you're interested, come see me after the meeting. Or if you're already band certified, come see me as well. It's super easy to get band certified. I don't need a ton of people, but if you're interested, just let me know. It's also just a useful thing to have if you're like a club signer or in a club, or just like in general for future SGA things. Now, over the summer is a great time to do it. This does take 30 days to process. You need it for like a week or two in advance. That's not really going to work for risk management. Myself, and Chair Gomez had a meeting about the new TV in the SGA office that he'll probably talk about a little bit more. It's very exciting. We're going to kind of utilize that to the best of our abilities, as well as other TVs across campus too. Elections, Senator Bouffard will be our elections chair for next year. So myself and him will be working on kind of rethinking our elections here for SGA, and kind of start thinking about how we're going to run first year elections this year and how to get our word out in that way. If you're not returning to SGA after next year, so if you won't be running in an SGA election ever again, please let me know if you'd be interested in serving on the elections committee. We want to make sure it's a committee this time, full of people, so that the responsibility doesn't just fall on Senator Bouffard to kind of make those decisions and do the promotion and all of that himself, but we'll be working on that over the summer and into next year. My summer schedule, I will be here a few times in June, but nothing really set in stone for June yet. But I will be back on July 29th to August 2nd that week to do SGA stuff in the office. So if you're around, I'll be available then, but I'm also available to text or email at all times, phone call, FaceTime, you name it, you'll probably reach me. And then I'll be back in Burlington on August 18th onward for the rest of the year as well. Move-in day will be on August 23rd. If you're interested in helping out with first year move-in day, please let me know after this meeting. I have to submit our sign up this week to Student Life. It's a lot of fun. If you live on campus, you can move in the day before and kind of get acclimated to campus, get moved into your residence hall, stay in Burlington for the first weekend, which is always a lot of fun. There's convocation, there's the parade, there's just, generally nice weather, that sort of thing. There's it's like a first year's activities fest that SGA will probably table after that sort of thing. So if you're interested in movie day, please see me after this meeting. Additionally, I've been picking up cat movie tickets all semester. I haven't been able to go. So if anyone is definitely going to go to the cat movie tickets within the next 2 weeks, come see me after. I have a bunch that I can use. I'll keep some for myself. But I guess there's some good movies out right now, so you should go and see them. If you want SGA last semester or as well as this semester, we have lots of them, you can get an SGA glass just like this one. You can see Sarah at the front desk for them, or if Sarah's not there, you can see me and I'll help you grab one. Finally, we are looking for a senator to attend a leadership conference. Leadership is a conference that surrounds basically, it takes kind of your identities, your experiences, and kind of your roles and core values, and how to be a better leader in your leadership experience and goals, and kind of moving forward with that into next year, and how to make your own role better. UVM's never sent people to it before. Daphne is kind of a co-facilitator for one in Chicago. So the one that we'd like to send UVM students to is on May 12th, which is coming up, to, I believe, the 17th? What? 17th. That week, 6 days in Boston. Lodging, food, meals is all covered. It's pretty intensive though. It's all day long, usually 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. But we'd like to send an SGA representative. So if you're interested in that, come see me after the meeting. You have to commit for the whole week for that. And then finally, Senator of the Week this week. Senator of the Week for his outstanding work on the Committee on Legislative and Community Action, advocating for students, and his commitment to community issues, as well as attending a very long city council meeting last night about different issues relating to community, but also the neighborhood plan for Burlington. Congratulations to Senator May.
It's community affairs. No, you said action every time you get it wrong.
Dragon. Pop.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the president's report.
Hello, everyone. yourselves in this busy time. I sent an email out to all of Senate with some resources that are going to be around the next 2 weeks to kind of help you out. Also, there'll be more by Living Well. This doesn't really work for Aiden, but Living Well does sandwiches next week, and they do like free peanut butter and jelly and like Nutella and fluff, and they're just like so good. So definitely check that out. But sorry, our admin meetings and meetings with people and administration across campus have been going really, really well. It's good to meet people and let them know our faces, and also talk about our platform for the year and trying to figure out how we can make action steps with that. I'll be giving my first report to the board on May 17th. So I already sent that in, so I'll share that report with all of you. But basically, I just talked about our goals for the year, so the board knows what we're up to. This week, I have been really involved with something that I kind of unexpected. The intersection at Main Street Heights South. So Owen is in a class, and I think some of the other senators are, and they did some counting, and I think some of you helped to see like how many pedestrians cross, how many cars cross, because like it really is an unsafe intersection. And then that class like asked the SGA to help them. So we held a press conference yesterday, and it was like really exciting. I never helped hold a press conference, and I got like so many people reaching out to me. I've done like a bunch of media interviews. So super unexpected, but the SGA is now going to help try to make that intersection more safe. Yeah, so in 1 day of counting, they found like 7,000 pedestrians passed there, and about 16,000 cars. So that's a lot, and they also saw like a lot of distracted driving, like using phones. One girl saw someone plucking their eyebrows like in the rearview mirror, like as he drove through. So I'm really excited to work on that, and it's really exciting because like this is what SGA does. Like people come to us with students come to us with problems, and like we use all the resources that we can to help them. So it's been really cool to see that. Thank you to Senator Bouffard, Senator Kagan, Senator May, who've all been helping me out this week, and will be helping me out moving forward with that. My summer schedule, I'll be back here July 1 in the office working. I'll be working on my climate report as well as other platform things. If everybody wants to take their phone out for a hot minute right now, I'm going to give you all my cell phone number in case you need anything at any point. So I can also post it on the Facebook page, but it's 508, don't mark this on the minutes, 335-3744. So if you need anything, I'll be on my phone all summer, but I'll be back in Burlington July 1. So just hit me up on my phone. And I don't think I have anything else. Good luck getting through the next few weeks. Take care of yourselves. Don't do any SGA work over the summer. Take time to relax. And that's all.
And point of information, the chairs should have all of exec board's phone numbers as well, so they can pass it on.
508-335-3744.
Further questions for the president?
No, I think I don't know.
Everyone, happy Tuesday. Do you have a question? No, you're good. Okay. I sent out email to clubs this week and let them know that all purchase orders are due May 3rd. I also introduced myself, which is really nice. Clubs have been emailing me about summer. If you have, Grace, mostly you, if anybody needs to spend in the summer, please let them know through email me. I worked with Chair Dana on her resolution, which was a lot of fun. So thank you for getting me used to that. I've never been in SJ before, so it was really fun. I've been meeting with clubs all week about their fundraising requirements. If anybody asks, I need to have them done by May 10th. And once again, my summer hours are starting June 1st, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. And if you know any freshmen or incoming sophomores that need a work study job, I would need a financial assistant to work with Jared. And that's all I have.
Questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Farr.
I was curious what concert you saw.
Oh, Hippocampus. They're so good.
Further questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, we'll move on to
Hey everyone, last meeting this semester. I have quite a bit to go through, so I apologize. I'll make this as concise as possible. First, I want to thank you for passing the resolution, but more importantly, recognize Senator Cummins. I think what we just saw was extremely important to the work that we do at this body, and I respect the fact that you are speaking on behalf of students who you're sitting by with, so thank you. Secondly, congratulations to Speaker Merson, first meeting. I thought you did a pretty good job. I also love your shirt. And also, the sun is staying out so much longer. Please spend more time outside. I'm getting so happy seeing the sunset from this angle. And moving more towards my updates, our last Senator Spotlight is going to be occurring this week. PR is thinking of some creative ways to stay engaged in our social media platforms, so we'll keep you updated with that. Our SGA newsletter is going to be released on May 5th, and Senator Walasevich is taking care of that, so if there's anything in particular with regards to your committees that you would like to see in that, please feel free to reach out to him. As mentioned by both Vice President Doherty and President Scannell, Richard Watts, beloved Richard Watts, worked with us to draw attention to student demands regarding safety changes on that intersection. And my email has also been inundated with lots of media outlets seeking student representation and voice. Thank you, President Scannell, for jumping right on the spot with that. Vice President Doherty, myself, F.A. and Cody from Student Life, who handle all of the marketing, met to discuss the flat screens. I'm going to be the point person with regards to external folks who'd like to use or like to upload content onto the flat screen. And my kind of role from that meeting now is thinking of templates for our ideas that we'd like to move on to the TV. We're thinking of shifting our senator spotlights over there, club spotlights, helping club affairs and posting important deadlines for clubs. So we're thinking of new ideas to make that most worthwhile. Additionally, our new website is coming along, won't be unveiled anytime soon, but we're aiming for this fall. And we're thinking of implementing a PR blog on top of that. Sarah Flaherty, who's at the front desk, is backloaded with a lot of our legislation. So we're kind of going to be assuming that role of making that more easily accessible for folks who'd like to keep up with our meeting minutes and see how we're voting on the Senate too. And lastly, for those of you who signed up for orientation, thank you. You should be receiving an email from me later this week about the next steps moving forward, particularly what shifts are available. Once I get more details, I'll make sure to be as specific as possible in terms of communication. And the last thing that I want to draw attention to, as President Scannell also noted, finals week is coming up. And I just kind of wanted to make the announcement that you are not your grades. And I will say that one more time. You are not your grades. I think part of being a student is so much attached to our identities, but we're people before we're students. So I really encourage every single one of you, no matter what day it is on finals week, get outside, watch Netflix for a couple hours, go to one of the Living Well massages. They're amazing. Finals week is only a temporary part of your life as students, so please do not be so consumed with all the stress. Otherwise, I hope you have the best summer ever. I will not be here this summer, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email. And that's it.
Questions for Chair Gilman? Seeing none,
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna just plow right on through this report. We had our second committee meeting today, and it was great. Senators King and May went to like a 3-hour-long city council meeting last night. I was like, please leave, like you don't have to be there. They really they enjoyed it. They really pulled through, and I'm very proud of them. And they heard a report from the neighborhood project, amongst a lot of other really important, relevant information. And I'm so proud of them and happy that they got to see that. With the next newsletter, there's going to be an NPA and City Council update, courtesy of Senator King. So that's super exciting, going up to the student body. This Friday, our committee's meeting with City Councilor Jack Hansen. We're just going to chat about our projects and see what he's up to, if he can help us out in any way, and just kind of build a relationship with him. And Senator King is looking into next semester starting a coffee with city councilors meeting like every month or so to have students engage with their representatives more often, which is awesome. Yeah, this intersection business is happening, and Senator King has been doing an awesome job working on it, as well as Senator May. And Senator May is really interested in taking that up, and we're excited for him. What else? So Community Coalition is this Friday, 3 to 4:30 in the Oscar office, where celebrating Emeritus Chair McDermott and her work as chair of the Community Coalition for the past year. They have snacks. They're going to have like extra snacks this time because it's like an end of the year celebration. So I highly recommend going. We're going to help bake cookies and like decorate them for some middle schoolers as well. Super cute. And then it's also Green Up Day this Saturday. Senator May pointed this out to me. So it's kind of just like everyone's going out and about in Vermont cleaning up. So if anyone wants to get together and like grab some bags and go out there on Saturday, let us know. We can arrange that on Facebook or online or whatever. And that's all I have. So if I don't see any of you before the summer, have a like amazing summer. I'll be here. Ask me to hang out. I'll take any questions.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the environment.
Happy Tuesday. Chair Smith's mom is in town, so they're hanging out. So after a rock, paper, scissors match with Senator Guest, I will be leading the committee report today. Our carbon neutral purchase order form for Native Energy is in, so that's all done. Pretty hyped about that. Earth Week last week was a huge success. There was great sustainability talk about interface carpets, so that was pretty interesting. Chair Smith met with the Burlington 2030 people, and they want the university to sign onto the plan as well, so that'll be interesting if that happens. Very exciting. Senator Gass and I will be reps along with Senator King, so we're all hyped about that. Sunrise Town Hall meeting last night went pretty well. We had a really good turnout from what I hear. I was unable to attend, but it sounded very exciting. Chair Smith is meeting with the club Organize on Wednesday to talk about their future goals and see what they're up to. Senator Lopez and myself are working on next steps with the plastic bag resolution, talking to the eco reps, figuring out where we can stop the distribution of them outside of Cat Paws, New World, and the bookstore. Senator Guess is working on action steps with the Climate Action Plan with Gary Mella and President Scannell. There's also a Senate article about him and President Scannell, so grab a copy, take a read. Pretty fun stuff. Senator Lopez got an email that she has a package, but she didn't order anything. So check in with her to see what that's about. Senator Guess got a sugar maple tattoo, so check in with him to see what that's about. Forgot to ask Speaker Merson, but he's got a cute floral shirt on today. I love it. And I had a really relatively uninteresting week, but I'm excited to go to Portland, Oregon in a week to see my brother's graduation. Thank you, everyone, for an amazing year. I'll be around in the summer if you need anything. Hit me up for hanging out, going to the beach. That concludes my report. I'll take any questions.
I just want to say I also got an email with a package, but I did not order anything. So that's just
I got wild time.
Meeting next week, just there.
I'm wondering if you all have looked into the med center, if there's any, like a gift, I know they have a gift shop there, the hospital, like maybe they have plastic bags?
It's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you so much, President Scannell.
Further questions for Joey? Seeing none, we'll move on to academic affairs.
Hello, everyone. So, bunch of things. Awesome, thank you so much for passing that resolution. It's the step in the right direction, which leads me to two different points. I was just listening to that bill being read, and there was a lot of numbers, and there was a lot of terms, and so I just want to make it completely clear, if anyone has any questions, please meet with me and ask. Information is power. You should all, you're all like SGA members, you should absolutely have access and feel like you have access to these very specific, like, term resolutions. And so, any questions, please come to me and ask. Second thing, so in terms of advising, we had the large meeting last week, and a few things came out of that. One, SGA, namely my committee, namely me, will be doing a literature report. If we have any brave literature review of advising models across UVM, across our competitor colleges, and then looking at some data that we have regarding advising is we have any brave, wonderful, kind souls who have nothing to do this summer and, rather than going to the beach or reading a book, would love to learn about the advising model. Please reach out. Your help would be invaluable. We all pick a college, to go faster. On to my second point. Danielle and I will also be showing the rough draft in the IBB video. I'm expecting criticism. I'm encouraging criticism. I ask that it's constructive criticism, but please do give feedback. Senator Bouffard is presenting on some of his work, giving some updates to the committee tonight. Sam is the College of Arts and Science, Senator Bouffard, Senator Pasqualone, is the College of Arts and Sciences Dean's Advisory is the agenda set, and next year's members are excited to continue. And then Senator Hayward, who's not currently present with us, is excited to get on to some connecting international students with more local students, because there's kind of that separation amongst our community. So if any of you have any interest in that, please reach out to me and I'll be sure to connect you with the project with Senator Hayward. I'll take questions now.
Questions for Chair? Seeing none, we'll move on to public affairs.
Hi. I guess my big update, I'm completely overhauling the Club Signer workshop. So apologize in advance to President Scannell, Vice President Doherty. I'm going to be working over the summer. Yay. I have a meeting with Treasurer, I'm going to screw it up again, Gauthier? All right, well, I'm working on it. Chair Emeritus Flaherty and Leon tomorrow to talk about the Treasurer workshop and moving things a little bit more onto Blackboard and UVM clubs, formerly known as UVM Links, to take up less of the time during the actual Club Signers workshop and make it more of a concrete resource that students can go back to throughout the year. Free registration for all clubs ends Friday, so if you have friends who are club signers, if you are a club signer and you haven't done it yet, please do it because you're gonna screw yourself over. If you don't. A bunch of clubs are still reaching out about recognitions in the fall, which is exciting. Hopefully we'll have a bunch more coming. Yay. If any of you have attended the Club Signer workshop before, please find me afterwards. Just give me your feedback, whatnot. I had my one-on-one with Chair Emeritus Schiller the other day, and it's weird, I had no idea how much stuff she does, and I miss her already. Starting with the summer, the links will now be known as UVM clubs. We're updating that everywhere. There's probably some confusion, but bear with me. I will hopefully be sitting on a committee to interview, or to help with the search process for the new Assistant Director of Student Life, which is a really awesome resource for all clubs, and it will also take pressure off of myself, my committee, and off of Sarah Flaherty. So it's going to be really exciting, and I have any questions. I'm also going to be here this summer, so hang out with me. That is all.
Questions for Chair Parker? Seeing none, we'll move on to Committee on Student Action Motion.
Hey y'all, what do you call a belt with a watch on it? A waste of time. All right, fun fact, Switzerland is legal to only own one guinea pig. So I guess it's because the Swedes are so kind, they don't want a guinea pig to be loaned, so you have to get at least two or you break the law. That's fun. Cool. All right. First, I want to congratulate Senator Merson on a resolution that he worked really hard on. He's working with Senator Walasevich on a resolution acknowledging the Algonquin people, and we'll be working on that over the summer. Senator Lumen has met with Nicole Doherty to follow up about the fact that apparently our catering service doesn't have any mandated protocol to ensure that allergens are labeled. So because they described that having allergens listed is a sore to the eyes, she's going to work around that and come up with creative ideas that they can't deny. So that's good. Yes. Senator Doherty is working on creating a checklist. Hopefully, if this goes well in our committee, G. Doherty, this one, is creating a checklist to essentially ensure that every single initiative that we make will promote longevity and will be useful after the time that we're here, just to make sure that every initiative that we pass, we're making sure that it does what we're trying to get it to accomplish, that it's inclusive of all students, and like I said, that it promotes longevity. Senator A. Doherty, who's this one, is working on the fact that there are gendered floors in dormitories on this campus, which for folks who are non-binary or trans can be really an uncomfortable process to have to go through to explain. So we're going to talk about that and hoping to get that rolling before the year ends. And I am meeting with Dr. Chen on Friday to talk about health on campus. I'm going to be meeting tomorrow with folks from the Senate to address the recent headline after a student's death and how it was insensitive to be making sure that wellness is promoted through our reporting on campus. I've met with the Health Collective to talk about different initiatives that are happening on campus, and meeting with the Psychology Club tomorrow, and that's what I am doing. Thank you. Oh, last thing also, if anyone is feeling really overwhelmed, either on campus or not on campus, you can always come to my house for dinner in Lizard. So my door is open if you need anything, and I hope you have a great summer. I will be in DC.
Questions for Chair Green? Seeing none, we'll move on to committee on diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Hi, folks. I'm just going to read Chair Bill's committee report. Hey, everyone. Congrats to Speaker Merson and Treasurer Gauthier. We are very excited to have you and see all the great work each of you accomplished this year. Koda's been making steps now, which is very surreal and amazing. After some discussion of what we are legislatively doing next year, we've come across some general and specific goals for us to work on. For example, Kodai will like to continue to build trust with our identity clubs in more than one way. We also want to diving into the process of hiring more campus victim advocates. Kodai's possibilities are really endless. We plan on making concrete initiatives over the summer. Next year, we'll consist on the ongoing work of these projects, the delegation of tasks that come out, planning for events such as Equity Week, Sexual Violence Aware Month, and consistently. Sorry, my phone just decided to checking in with marginalized communities on this campus along with being present in these spaces. As for Chair Van Arsdale, she'll be reaching out to all the heads of identity centers and some other folks within UVM to introduce herself and the rest of the Kodai team for the 2019-2020 term. As always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to anyone on Kodai or to Chair Van Arsdale via email.
Questions for Senator Jabor? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance.
Hey all, thanks for a great semester. Last meeting, pretty exciting. We've been working pretty hard this past week with all sorts of funky requests and timing issues with Taylor and Blanca. We just got around to teaching Tucker how to do gas ups today. Fortunately, we weren't able to teach Lonnie because she was in Chicago in an interview, which is pretty exciting. David talking to Daniel, which is also like a pretty big deal because he's pretty cool. Other news, big earnings week for the stock market. A lot of indicators for the economy coming up. Yeah, everything's pretty good over here. There's Holly on Sunday that we finally funded. So that's in Redstone. Redstone bringing around like, I think it's like 11:30. Cool, yeah, I should go to that. It's gonna be fun. Concludes my comments.
Questions for Senator Crosser? Seeing none, we move on to Senatorial Forum, beginning with Chair Green.
Hello. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it a little heavy, so I just want to say I respect and love all of you, and we're here because it's our job to take care of the students on campus, and I want to use my personal experience to make sure that no one else is in my position feeling unsupported. There are resources if you need them, and so I'm kind of put that out there. Over this weekend, there was another shooting at a synagogue in California. I feel like most of you know it, but for those who don't, I'm a pretty observant Jew. Pray several times a day, speak in Hebrew, all those good things. So this has shaken me up a lot. And I know that this is following the discussions that we had following what was going on in Sri Lanka, and Notre Dame and all of that. So I want to say this. I worry that a resolution is one, not enough, or two, we set a precedent by having a resolution, and then every single tragedy that happens, if we're not passing a resolution, that says something bad. So I wanted to stand up here and just say that it is really easy in this country to be desensitized to gun violence, and I know that post 9/11, that's the generation that we've grown up in, and so I don't blame anyone for, including myself, kind of for being like, oh my gosh, there's another one. But every single one should hit us, should hit us hard, and we shouldn't become habituated to it. Because that's what terror is supposed to do. It's supposed to incite fear, and it's supposed to incite us giving up on what we care about. And so in direct opposition to that, I wanted to start a conversation talking about clear action steps that we can have as a Student Government Association going forward, so that when tragedy strikes, we are prepared, we know what to do, we know who to reach out to, and we make sure that no one feels unsupported. So I wanted to kind of make that a thing and take notes on that. I don't know if we should have that discussion now, but I definitely think it's important before we go into summer, because if something happens over the summer, it shouldn't take 3 days for the SGA to respond. And I know that oftentimes we don't know what to do, and I don't blame anyone for that. I don't know what to do. I know the rabbi who was shot, he's related to my rabbi. So I just want to make sure that no one's in my position, no one's in the position of suffering, period. So yeah, I'm going to open the floor up. If anyone has a suggestion, I think emailing clubs or students to whom the event pertains immediately is really good if it's a direct individual message. I'd like to thank Senator Cerna for immediately reaching out to Hillel Chabad and the Interfaith Center in regards to this recent about shooting. I think that should be a precedent that we set, because even though I think resolutions are powerful, who knows about them outside of us? We know that that's an issue. We know that most people aren't aware of them. So do we continue to dig our heels in and do the same thing and wonder why it's not working? Or do we do something different? And I know everyone knows it's the latter. So if anyone has an idea, please let's be vulnerable and talk about this so that we can take care of ourselves and each other.
Questions, comments?
Can I type it somewhere? Or write it down?
Hi. So right now I'm taking a religions class with Elise Morgenstein first in the religions department called Islam and Race. And we've been talking about a lot of the same things and how to, if you're not a part of that community, be the right kind of ally. And what I've really taken away from this class is that you can think of somebody who is from a certain religion and you're not thinking about everyone else who also holds that identity. So not every Muslim looks the same, not every Jew looks the same. And what I've taken away from that has really been I need to break out of who I am and my identity and listen to other people from other identities. So I'm on Twitter and I have made it my goal this semester to follow a whole bunch of people who don't hold my identity, who aren't talking about things that are relevant to my identity, but are just about what's going on. And that includes scholars of religion, that includes scholars of sociology, but that's just also activists. And I encourage you to get educated and listen to what they have to say and how you can support them, because it's really hard to know if you're not even stepping in the door to listen.
And I want to say one more thing. I know that there's a lot of radio silence oftentimes surrounding these things because they're happening all the time. And I also totally acknowledge that when we're in college, it's really difficult for us to always be in tune, kind of with the news cycle. So I understand that there's a lot our way. My one concern would be, yes, we're students, and yes, we have busy lives, but we are first responders. It is our job to be the ones saying something first. And I felt as though the people who reached out to me, checked on me, were people outside of SGA first. And I don't want anyone to be in a position where they can use that as leverage to say, look, SGA isn't doing anything. But that's kind of the least of my priorities besides ensuring student safety and well-being. So I appreciate that you're noting that we need to be educated. What are tangible action steps of things we're going to do when tragedy strikes? I need those kinds of things. And every single person in this room, I think, is capable of thinking of something. So anyone have ideas?
Senator Lopez.
Sorry, I don't have an idea, but I just want to say thank you for everything that you said, because I definitely am 100% desensitized. Just getting updates on my phone, there's probably a shooting every single day, and I read over it and I'm like, wow, that's sad, but it doesn't really hit home for me. So thank you for making that clear. I do think that something does need to happen, but more importantly, you're always, I haven't even been on set that long, but you're always offering yourself to other people, but please don't hesitate to contact one of us, asking for help or seeking for help. I'm 1,000% so capable of making you dinner, comforting you in your session. I would do blizzard because it's adorable. on like helping other people, like please take care of yourself too.
Senator Jones.
With like relating a little bit to what I just said is I think that we need to reach out to groups beyond just these identity center groups because not everyone's involved in those communities. So maybe I like also don't really know what SGA does fully, but I don't know if we send out like emails or anything, but like maybe instead of passing a resolution, we send out an email with condolences, but also like steps and information on what to do next, like who you can contact to support, and then maybe also talk about what we're doing as an SGA to combat all of it. And like that encompasses a lot of things, but maybe like bullet points, this is what we're working on to try to
I have one more idea too that just came to mind now, and I want to get a reading of what people think about it. I'm wondering, I know the recent convention that CDBT put on, there was a breakout session about how to be an effective activist without burning out. I'm wondering if it would be in our best interest and the interest of the student body to put on some student government association-led event about how to respond, I don't know, I don't know how to phrase it, grievances. Obviously religious communities aren't the only ones who are targeted, right? We know people of color are targeted by gun violence every single day, all the time. So I want to know what we can do to provide resource. And I'm wondering if like an event is a weird thing to do. I really am lost on this. Yeah.
Senator Shelley.
I wasn't going to speak to what you just said, but I don't know what the precedent is in terms of making posts on Facebook, but I know that SGA posted and said we condemn these attacks, here are a bunch of resources, UVM Bouffard, stuff like that. And I don't know if it's precedent every time something like this occurs, but I do think that it is effective because people outside of SGA don't read resolutions. They're looking at the comments, they're looking at Facebook, they're looking at Twitter, they're looking at Instagram, and just like issuing out like these are resources you can go to. And then if you're not a part of the law, you're not a part of the law, but you still are someone who is of Jewish faith, like living well, caps, stuff like that. I do think that is productive and good to issue out resources for students on campus. Having a meeting, I think if it was gone about in a way that was careful, that it's a sensitive topic.
I'm wondering if are even hosting some sort of forum for people to essentially just like be in a space to say how this is affecting them, and if they have ideas also for how we can be better. I'm wondering if just creating that space is a good idea. Oftentimes when tragedy strikes too, like we don't know what to do, and that inhibits us from action. So that's why I want to plan it out now, so that if something happens, that we're all kind of like, okay, this is where we're going to go. We know it's going to happen. It's hard. It's hard.
Senator DeBoer.
Thank you for this. I think, I don't know if you've reached out to identity groups or maybe any group that has been affected by something like this in the past. What would they have wanted? Because we can like guess what they want all we want, but I mean, they're there and you can ask them what would have helped last time, even though it's like we don't want them living that experience again, but I think it's important to know what would have helped at that time. I think that's our
Senator Walsh.
Thank you for getting this going. This is a great conversation to be having, and I'm so glad we're doing it now. I'm just thinking that there's also people that aren't in groups that, or they don't belong to the identity centers they align with. And the PR committee does have a list of all the major media sources basically throughout the state, some other surrounding areas. So maybe we can put out some press releases even. It's another way to get out to the community beyond just students and then smaller groups within the school.
Yeah, and I want to respond to that. I think one of the main propellants for me to stand up here is that there has been radio silence really on this issue. There's growing anti-Semitism in the country. It's been particularly bad, the worst it's been in the history of America. Since 2016, there have been more hate crimes of Jewish organizations and folks than ever before. So I can only speak from my experience, but I definitely would appreciate that just because, like, I didn't know what happened until my dad called me. And and that's because Colorado is a bigger state than probably isn't coverage. So thank you.
Daphne? For those of you who don't know, Daphne Wells is the Director of Student Life and also the SGA Advisor.
I think it will be important to define as a group what tragedy is, because if we're talking about just tragedy in general, like that could be hundreds of things, and so what capacity do we have as the SGA to really respond to every single thing? I mean, just like today, there was a shooting at UNC Charlotte, people died. Is that a tragedy or not? And so then, something like that happens, things like this happen on a regular basis, and so making a plan for how to respond to every single thing, it could be something where it has to be, a meeting or a forum, something like that. You'll be doing those like all the time. And so really deciding on what tragedy, at what point we respond, and what does that look like, and then also being careful because it's like, well, they responded when this thing happened with the Jews, and it didn't say anything when this happened with women, or this thing this happened to black people, this happened with immigrants, and so just being careful about, how we're deciding to respond to what situations that's going to look like.
And thank you, and that's part of the reason I brought this up, is because I worry the resolution falls into that problem. Should we try to define that? Is it okay if we do that now? Should this be? My only worry is that if we don't do it, how do we ensure safety of students when we're not here over the summer? Because I think we should all still be having each other, taking care of each other. What do you think?
Any comments on defining tragedy? Senator Bouffard?
Yeah, I was just thinking there are a couple different ways maybe you can do it. If you have a set of media resources and that if, say, like 3 of the 5 of them or something report on it, that would lend potential bias to like inherent in those media corporations. So perhaps maybe if you use Google Trends and see, okay, once it hits the threshold of X many like searches, I think then that would be representative of how people in the country as a whole are talking about it. If it's affected many people, then there will be more searches. That would be maybe less bias.
I agree. My only concern is that, I can only speak for myself. Like, Jews make up under 0.01% of the world. Like, realistically, it's not going to affect as many people as it affects Christians. So I appreciate that. I also wonder, though, if defining it by size is kind of like, it's
right.
This is
I don't mean to desensitize any impact, like such as Daphne just mentioned, the shooting on the campus affected, quantitatively fewer people. By no means less tragic inherently. I'm just trying to think of realistic ways to decide. I don't think, of course, there is any way to say objectively, oh, this tragedy is more tragic, but just as a threshold to say, okay, whether we will make this address.
Senator Carlster?
I was originally going to say something along the lines of what Daphne said, but these things are like so tragic, and so many of them happen every day. There are mass shootings so often, and it's not necessarily something we can tackle right now because it's institutional, it's systematic, and it doesn't just happen in the United States. It happens around the world. We recognize what happened in Sri Lanka, but there are all sorts of other mass killings and mass tragedies and small tragedies, and the scale. We have to be really careful about how we're defining it and how we go about addressing everyone. I think it's going to take time to define them, and it's going to take more resources than what we have in this room. It's going to take talking to many people about how do we define it, how do we go about it. Do we kind of blanket cover all tragedies? Do we individually address? I'm not really sure. I don't know if we're going to be able to come to a consensus on that tonight, just because of how massive a scale it is in the world today, and how systematic it is. It's not necessarily where you can pick out one thing. There's so many different groups that are being affected. I would never want to purposely leave out any kind of group where we forget about it. And I would just, again, have caution about defining it tonight. I would say like setting up meetings throughout this week if we don't want to wait till next semester, or like having a Slack channel about it, or reaching out to other groups on campus about how they think stuff should be done.
Awesome. So to respond to that, just I guess for brevity, I'll post about this on the Facebook group. If anyone's interested in having these communications going forward, please let me know. I'll just leave everyone with this note. I know that we've been raised in a country where learning that several people died every single day because of guns is like, we have to somewhat be desensitized psychologically so that we can function. But look out for your friends, read the news, think about the people for whom these situations are affecting, and let's just make sure that over the summer that we're still taking care of ourselves and each other, and that we don't let this just fall under the auspices of work, because being a senator is being a good friend, and I think that should be happening outside here always. So thank you for giving me the space to talk about it. I just want to make sure that this is an ongoing conversation. This will not be the last time you hear from me about it, just so that we feel supported in supporting others and receiving support too. Thanks.
There are a few people remaining on the speaking order. If you'd still like to speak, please raise your placard. Senator King.
I just want to speak to the idea of like SGA hosting forums. I'm like really uncomfortable with the idea of that, just because first of all, I think it puts a lot of like emotional pressure on a committee to say like you're hosting a forum regarding this, because we aren't qualified to do that. So I would suggest that we work with groups and like work with resources on campus to create student-friendly spaces and student-friendly presentations, but I just don't think that's a good idea for SGA to do.
Senator Bill.
I just wanted to say, it was mentioned before about the presentation, or having maybe a presentation or something to help people understand a better way to respond to these things and to reach out to their friends. I come from a very white town, very conservative, and for me coming to UVM, it was a very big eye-opener, and so a lot of times I don't know the proper way, and I'm sure that
sort of this question. I would say like one thing that we need to do is sort of, because when I think of this idea, one of the things that immediately goes to my head is like, it's a code I think to excel in. And I feel like with stuff like this, it's something that we all have to like be aware of, and we all have to say, like involve ourselves with, both in supporting them, but also in supporting the community as a whole, each individually rather than as a single community's task. I also, I'm mixed on the forums. It's like a lot of points were brought up. Sort of, but I also like the idea of having some sort of like facilitate the conversation where people from like identity groups or groups affected, or even just groups in general, can come and sort of discuss what's going on, what could be done as a way to bring the community together. That's just perfect.
Senator Gass.
Also, just building off of Senator Croxford and Senator Doherty, in terms of having references outside of this room, I think it's important to make sure that this is something that students actually want. It can be dangerous to assume that a group is affected by a tragedy, even if it has to do with their identities. Just personally speaking, I know like this is a tragedy that occurred to my identity as a Jew, but I don't want to be reminded about it because I have family that lives very close to where that happened, and I don't want to be reminded that that's something that could have happened to them. So I think it's important to make sure this is something students want, that they want to be reached out to, because sometimes they don't.
And the last comment would be Senator Bouffard.
Yeah, I wanted to say something before. I guess just that general, I feel very conflicted when it comes to having like template responses to these kind of things, because I feel like each tragedy is unique and deserves its own like inherent recognition. But then, in order to give each the fairness, they should sort of have some. It's tough for me. And then I also I know it was mentioned earlier that to like exhibit what we were doing, but I'm also conflicted in that because on one hand like just show like hey we support you, but on the other hand I feel like it's saying like washing our hands like oh like it's okay we're good. So those are my conflicts there. I also wanted to apologize if I had any negative impact before suggesting a level at which tragedy that it's just simply a way of saying if we were called out for saying hey how come you didn't cover this, that we could say we have guidelines for it, but again, that's by no means the correct answer, if any answer. So, thank you.
Thank you for letting me bring this up to you. I really appreciate it. I mean, for me personally, my response to tragedy is trying to make sure that I have an action step immediately after, so that I feel like I have self-agency in solving the problem. So, truthfully, my way of healing is standing up right now. So, thank you for letting me do that. Yeah, it'll be an ongoing conversation. I really like everyone's points. I think every single thing that's said is valid, and this is why I don't want to do something without the consultation of this group. So just care for one another, care for yourself, and have a good summer.
Chair Dana, IBB video.
Woo!
This is a completely different tone, and I do apologize.
No.
It seems so fickle. Comparison to the weight of that discussion. But, so I do want to say, like I said, fully anticipate criticism. This is the rough draft. I wanted to make sure that SGA is kind of like steam material, as it kind of will look like we put out before the fall. As a reminder of what this is information. We're not advertising to anyone. It's if students want information. This is a compiled list as plain, as simple, as understandable, and digestible as humanly possible. Also speaking.
Retweet. Get comfortable. Not too bad.
Incentive-based budget. Incentive-based budgeting, otherwise known as IBB. This is the current model. There are two parts. Responsibility centers, known as RCs, bring in revenue to the university. Cost centers, or support centers, known as CCs or SCs, don't necessarily bring in revenue to the university, but support it in other ways. What happens is money is brought into the university and is allocated by an algorithm depending on its source. For example, undergraduate net tuition, or summer tuition, or state appropriation. Once if it's undergraduate net tuition, subvention and scholarships are removed prior to distribution by algorithm 1. Once the money is distributed into each college, the cost of a support center or a cost center is then allocated to the college based on a few things. For example, how big it is, what space it uses on campus, how many students there are, etc. Everything is then netted. IBB does not control how the money is used within a college, only how much it gets. Still a little confused? Let's take a closer look at algorithm. This is Sam. Sam's an undergraduate student. He's majoring in classical civilization, making his home college the College of Arts and Sciences, but he also decided to do a business minor, meaning he's taking classes in the Merson School of Business. Sam's an undergraduate student, so when he pays his tuition, the way it's allocated is determined by algorithm 1. Algorithm 1 groups all the undergraduate tuition together and then nets it. This means that they take out the first $40 million of subvention, which is from undergraduate tuition loan, and scholarships, and nets it all. Once this money has been netted, it then is divided into two groups. 85% of this money is allocated to the colleges based on student credit hours, and the other 15% is based on their major. What happens is the school says, this is how many total student credit hours we have, and this is how much money we have, and they give the student credit hour a value. Then they total up all the student credit hours in each of the college and distribute that money based on that value that they gave it. Prior to IBB 2.0, which will be implemented this summer, there used to be weightings, which said that a chemistry lab is more expensive to build than a classics classroom. However, because of the disproportion in how that money was distributed, they got rid of it in the IBB 2.0, which I said, again, will be active in this summer. The other 15% will be allocated based on whatever college houses the major. A major is more expensive, that's why it's factored into the model, not just student credit hours, because you have to pay for advising and there's a bunch of other stuff. But for example, for Sam, because he's a classics major, the College of Arts and Sciences would count that as their major, but the fact that he takes classes in the Grossman School of Business as part of his minor is factored in the student credit hours. Once all this money is allocated to the colleges, then the cost of whatever the cost center that college is responsible for is netted, and that money is then ready for distribution to the colleges, however they wish. This is it. This is all there is to algorithm 1. So why is there so much controversy surrounding this? In order to answer that question, we look at the enrollment numbers of the university across time. Before 2003, our student enrollment was relatively the same, but the president at the time, due to various economic reasons, said that we had the potential to teach more students. So our enrollment increased by nearly 3,000 students, which is a lot. In 2010, our enrollment peaked, and President Sullivan came in at the time and said, we have too many students, and so in 2013, he rolled out this strategic action plan, planning on decreasing student enrollment to 9,800. It actually went down to 96, a little around 9,600, 9,700 in 2014, 2015, and has gone up steadily ever since. This is important because we want to look at the trends between. So you expect student credit hours, majors, and everything to go up between 2003 and 2010, and then you expect everything to go down between 2010 and 2015, and then everything to go back up between 2015 and 2019. You have to keep these trends in mind as we look at the variances in student credit hours. Some important dates to note is that IBB had a parallel model running in 2015 to the current model, and then in 2016 was fully implemented. Another important layer that contributes to the discrepancy in student credit hours is the wellness environment. The wellness environment was implemented in 2015. Attached to the residential community is a 3-credit required class. This class is for undergraduate students, but it's taught by a faculty member whose home college is the College of Medicine. The way student credit hours are calculated for the model is the student credit hours go back to the home college of the professor. To help put this in perspective, I'm reading from the Educational Stewardship Committee's data summary report in 2017-2018. This committee's job is to monitor the effects of IBB. It says the total student credit hours have increased by 61%
21% since 2014-2015. The total increase is based on 52% from courses at the undergraduate level and 9% from courses at the graduate level. To give some mind, around $2 million in funding goes to as part of the wellness environment to the College of Medicine. Half of that is CAS students. So that's why there's so much controversy around the wellness environment. It's not just the wellness environment's fault, like there are many different aspects to this budget, but just keep in mind some of these fluctuations and various contributing aspects as we look at the next set. Let's take a very specific example of where complications can arise. Below is the data for the classics department. As you can see, the majors decrease rapidly, almost by 50%, possibly reflecting national interests away from the humanities and towards the sciences. However, the student credit hours remain relatively the same, even with the fluctuations in the student enrollment. Moreover, the faculty-student ratio and the faculty-student credit hour ratio also remains relatively the same. This is because although the department doesn't bring in a lot of majors, you still have business majors and SEMS majors and CES majors who need to fulfill their D2 requirement or their literature requirement or their language requirement. And so the department's still doing a large amount of work, but its value isn't necessarily being reflected in the budget model. This is why we have subvention. Subvention is a $40 million buffer for human discretion to say we understand that the value of the department isn't necessarily reflected in the budget model. Subvention can be a permanent reallocation of money to support these institutions whose value isn't necessarily reflected. Because while they don't necessarily bring in majors, they support the ones that are existing.
We will begin questions, comments, and constructive criticism with Senator Schwartz.
Senator Guest and I had some questions about we and like the parallels between like the budget models and stuff like that. What would it look like? Like, what would be the impact of, like, because there's like the required week class that they have to take, which I assume is like pretty expensive. So like, what would it look like if we like cut that, but then also like cutting we all together?
Okay, so wonderful question. This is such a big area of contention. I personally, I'm very biased about this, but I'll try to do this factually as quickly as possible. So the wellness environment seems to kind of be the exception of all the residential learning communities. Each residential learning community, which every student will be required to be part of, has an academic class tied to it. So everyone except for the wellness environment has a one credit class tied to it. You have like outdoor experience, cultural crossroads. Those are examples of the classes. And as part, side knowledge, as part of the advising overhaul, those will be influenced. It's kind of its own thing. So we are special because it is a required 3-credit class for only undergraduate students on some of the best areas on campus, in a workload that, for the vast majority of people I've talked to, not necessarily all of them, does not feel it's a 3-credit class. And then there's the credit multipliers. So I'll step back here. So right now, let's just go back. So the way the student credit hours are calculated is if you have a teacher teaching a class, namely biology, in the College of Arts and Sciences, but the teacher is it's this very large amount of money going to a graduate school. So per your question of get rid of it, few problems. Or restructure. So there's a few potential solutions. Ways of adjusting money so it's more per the intention of the IDP budget. The first off, the problem with trying to remove completely the program is that it gives the university a lot of publicity. And so one solution would be to say, okay, College of Medicine, you are a graduate school. Why don't you give the class that can easily be taught by the College of Arts and Sciences Psychology Department instead of having it being taught by the College of Medicine Psychiatry Department? So that way the funding would go, as undergraduate students, would go back to the College of Arts and Sciences. That's one solution. Another is decreasing the number of credits it's worth. Like I said, it's the exception, or it's the only required learning community that has a 3-credit class instead of a 1-credit class. That also makes a difference. Another option would be to take it out of their subvention. As objectively as humanly possible. the university is not a singular college, it is a whole university, and so it is absolutely expected that other different units will be supporting each other. The College of Medicine is very expensive, and so because it's more expensive than, like, say, CAS, it will be getting a lot of support from the university and from the state tuition. That being said, this was not necessarily the best method to go about it, where the College of Medicine they get a lot of money in terms of state appropriation. Subvention, which is $40 million, that's only undergraduate tuition, that's not graduate tuition, so they're getting a lot of that funding too. And then the other problem was this ameliorates the situation, but doesn't completely eradicate kind of the heart of the contention. There were student credit hour weightings, and so basically a chemistry lab's more expensive to build than a classics department, or like a classics classroom. Or, I won't even pick on classics, than an English classroom. And so it's kind of factored into, that's called the cost of teaching. It was an outside national study done, I believe by Delaware, don't quote me on that one, but an outside national, they looked across schools, across the nation, and they calculated, okay, these are the weightings that would best help cover those cost differences. So every university, or every college within the university got a weighting. CAS only got it ×1. The College of Medicine got it ×3 because a hospital's expensive. It's much more expensive than normal buildings. But that contributed to the kind of the impact that the wellness environment had. Because not only is it pulling undergraduate student credits away, it's ×3, which CAS would get. And so, did that answer the questions? So there's a few different solutions. Not necessarily, because I don't like it's not the problem. There's no the problem.
I was trying to apply that balance.
But like in terms of solutions, decrease the credit, just do credit hour weightings, bump up the work so it is a 3-credit class, make it so it's not required. Try to adjust Res Life where students are applying for the program, not for the living space that it's in. Because wellness environments gets like central campus, and they get all these wonderful facilities, and they get a lot of funding that Trinity's Arts and Creativity campus doesn't get. And as someone in L&L who's trying to, like, I'm a CSL, and we're trying to get students interested in Latin into the program, you see a lot of students applying to the program just because of the nice rooms, not for the actual intention of learning.
Is there a motion to restrict discussion to the video we're talking about? Second? Okay.
My bad.
Questions, comments, criticism on the video? Beginning with Senator Abel.
So on the video, I think the video is trying to accomplish 2 different needs. One of which is a very short, comprehensive, a very short, very direct. This is what I would be is very general for the lay student that doesn't really know much about budgeting and doesn't really care that much, but probably should understand this kind of stuff. And then on the other hand, the senators, the people that are really engaged and really want to know. So I think almost there should be a 3-minute video and a 10-minute video, one of which both posted on the same page. Hopefully you can post it on the treasurer's page within the outside of SGA, but actually post it on their page. I'm sure if you sent this to them, they'd be more than thrilled. The second is this like an early draft, or is this? I was just thinking some of the speaking I think was just like.
The audio is not odd. So I can redo the audio. I'm looking for help for anyone who wants to try to work on this. It gets very, very, like, this is a 5-minute video. I can tell you easily 3 hours went into this, probably more. And so like anyone who can just provide a little bit of support, because this is like, this frustrates me. I can read legislature, I can fight with administrators. This is something I can't do. But yeah.
Yeah. Chair Friedman.
First, you can put my name down, someone will help you to alleviate your. Second, I just want to point out the chair Dana has been working on this for months. Like this has been now a 2-term project so far, and like you are not giving yourself enough credit, so I'm going to now do that in front of everyone. Thank you for doing this because it's helping me to understand where my money's going, which is thanks. That was good. I appreciate it. Have yourself in back.
Kind of as Tali said, thank you for this. I was so much in just the 5 minutes. I do, as a constructive criticism thing, it is a lot of talking. In parts where like it's just a still frame and you just talk over it. I am a visual learner, and that kind of helps you follow along. So I don't know what visuals would be helpful in those areas, but yeah, you can put my name down to help too with that situation. It might make it easier to follow and pay attention to it.
Chair Gomez.
Chair Dana, you impress me every time you come up on this floor, so thank you. There's just a couple points where a problem for me was that you're speaking too quickly. That's something that I struggle with a lot too. And I think organization-wise, there were points where I think you would introduce your topic and then go into it. One was with subvention. You talked about that very early on in the video, but then 4 minutes later got into it. So that's one area where I would kind of clean up a little bit. And secondly, the part about the we controversy, you kind of ended off with that statement, and I think it would be more powerful for you to start. Once you start discussing how we relate to this, start off with that intentionally. But otherwise, my biggest constructive criticism was just slowing down a little bit, and I think what Senator A. Doherty brought up was really great. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, kind of separating these two videos, maybe creating 2 videos to kind of narrow down, if that makes sense. But thank you.
Senator Bouffard.
Yes, as we talked about in our committee meeting, that I really love the visuals and recognize all your work that's gone into it. I echo some of that, like with the speed, that maybe completely ironing out the script before and doing all like the filming and recording can be beneficial for the final product. And when you do have that script, then you can also automatically sort of throw it in as subtitles, because that's important for accessibility to the video. And then one last thing, I know that this video is sort of a nonpartisan response to all this, how a bunch of different groups have released various sort of skewed data sets, and I want to make sure that we are that very accurate middle ground. So if you were to rewind it to the portion with the years and the enrollment, I was just a little worried about the scales when it comes to that, a little bit forward from that.
Yeah.
Oh, to the right.
So
There you go. Because yeah, a little bit to the right. Perfect. Because you see, going 7,000 to 10,000, the scale is about the same as it going up like 200 or 100. So I would just make sure those like scales are right, because it could potentially have people saying, "Wow, that's very misleading." Thank you.
Senator Castelloni.
Yeah, so my point was kind of just brought up by Nick about adding subtitles to kind of make it easier to follow, but then also maybe adding a few more languages to increase accessibility throughout people who may not be as proficient. It's just some of us.
Chair Parker. Senator Garrett.
Just kind of second off what Senator Bouffard said, I think it's very important to make sure we're that neutral and unbiased source like you're doing. Maybe just a thought when you're kind of come to a finished product, running it by someone at either treasurer or finance, just say, what do you think, how do we want to be objective, how did we do, and get that kind of confirmation. Not that they have to support it, but it might, in good faith, be a nice thing to do.
This will be, before speaking of running by people, this will be run by the chair of the classics department, because we need a lot of information from them. And there was talk of possibly reaching out to the wellness environment, kind of like courtesy running by them. There's also, I have yet to be entirely clear about who this person or the position is, but you have to run it by a PR person as part of SGA's publications. I will reach out to Charlotte in case. But in theory, there's another person screening.
You might be right.
Further questions, comments, Senator Cummings?
Just to like kind of gauge the room, I have written down that Chair Friedman and Friedman and Wheeler would be willing to help, but is anyone else willing to speak up and help so we can get this from that? Thank you.
Further comments, questions?
got myself on the speaking order last week, and have since found my data set is not what I expected it to be. So I'll be presenting just sort of an update of what I've been doing, less of what I'm currently doing, and also recognizing that it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'll be executing with this. Just to go over quick raise of hands. This isn't set up, is it? Should be. No worries if it isn't. Quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with section descriptions in your registration class? How many of you are not familiar with them? All right, one. That is what I like to see. All right, perfect. So a little bit of background on section descriptions is that they have not always been mandatory. They've more been recommended in the past, and that my predecessors have been responsible for getting this as part of the faculty contract. So thankfully now that was a great sort of negotiation piece and saying, like, hey, you know, you should be doing this, not because I want you to, yes, because I want you to, but also because you are required to. So, so that was the update here. The 2018 contract requires them. And I emphasized to each of the college deans, this is a presentation I gave to associate deans in each of the college, that this is a student initiative. If they weren't, then I would have been the one presenting it to them. And because typically the administration will set a requirement, and then the faculty will, you know, they don't want to do more stuff. It makes sense, you know, if suddenly you have more homework, but not necessarily getting more compensation, you know, you can, of course, be upset about that. But that's why I emphasize this is a student initiative, because faculty are responsive to their students. And this is why I'm presenting it to you all tonight, because if you bring this issue to them, where you say, hey, I noticed you haven't filled out the section description for this course or something, should you possibly be aware of that, then that really hits it home to them. Or just remind them, I will, in a couple weeks or a few weeks before the registration opens, next semester, then that will just help light that fire for them. So the way it typically works is that, this is in the actual contract itself, you can see in the bold text that 2 weeks before course registration opens is when is the deadline for when they should have the section description in. And this is so that students can look in ahead of time before registration, hopefully not the day before or the night of, but to look ahead before and see which courses they might be interested in, because this can drastically affect how you sign up for classes. Myself, this semester, I was looking, well, this course has a 10-page paper at the end, and this course has exams at the end. I much prefer exams, and that influenced my decision. So information is power, as was said before, and students need to be informed shoppers when it comes to these. So that's why it's in the contract now. This is what a typical section description will look like. As you go into the CRN or into that schedule of courses, you can click on the CRN and then click expanded section descriptions. They are a little varied, and this will be updated. The registrar is working on the front end, but the back end looks the same, so that's why I was able to present this to faculty. So this is what it should look like with a nice... I don't know. It's okay. What? Yeah, there it is. That's not fun. Anyway, it's the description, just like a couple sentences, is really all you need. That gives you a good idea of the course. And then you see an evaluation. There's, you know, what you'll be expected to like tangibly do for the course, and then expectations, what you should be able to walk away with. If they don't necessarily have a URL, they can link to their department. More helpful than nothing. But also, I should say that the requirement is that any one of these boxes are filled out. Basically, that none of them are empty. So this is the data set I worked with. It scrolls down for thousands of rows. But what it is, if you see in the top right, it says the number of active sections, and then the ones that have links, so about 42% last semester. So last fall, looking to this spring, had those section descriptions filled out. And what it is tallying whether, so no means that none of those boxes were filled out, so therefore text shows up in this box. And then as I was counting, I was I zoomed in so I could read. And then what I was counting was how many of those didn't have any text, so therefore there was some form of description. So these are the percentages from each of the colleges. How many of those boxes did have at least some description? So on the flip side of that, even in the best ones, Cass and Pals, that means 60% of their sections did not have anything in them by the deadline, by that 2-week mark. So this is why I'm doing this project, because that meant the majority of courses didn't have anything. So this is where I would be presenting the data of this semester, but the data set I have has half of the CRNs that this does, and so it probably isn't as accurate. But so this is what it was for each of your colleges. You might see your home college and be like, guys. So this is why I'm presenting to you, because this is where that student input really lights that fire under the professors. This is how colored it realistically. This is compared between colleges. This is what it should be out of 100%. You can see that nobody really did stellarly here. So, I just like to. So this is real meat and potatoes of it here. I'm presenting to these professors, actually the associate deans. Is my questions to them. So what were their hangups? What was the issue in getting these percentages close to 100%? Or maybe other faculty not aware of it? I learned that they very well should be. They've got so many emails for it. Did they not know how to fill them out? There were guides sent out, and there were guides sent out every semester. So that was not the issue. So I asked about other sources of presentation. That's why I brought my computer with me. There are some edge cases if, say, the professor is on sabbatical, maternity leave and stuff like that. These are edge cases. Really what kept coming back to it was that it was not necessarily a priority issue in the professor's mind. So again, this is why I'm bringing it to you guys, you all, so that you can see this and see the value in it and remind your professors to do it. And then I also gave them some potential tips, motivators to share with their faculty why they should be filling these out. It's easy that it makes it, you can actually literally copy from your last one. There's a button, 2 clicks, and it'll have, once you filled out one section description for a class, and you filled it out for that class every semester henceforth, unless you change it. And then this just reduces the workload on the faculty. How many times have you been curious about a class and there was no description and you had to email out? And if you did email out, that's great because a lot of professors really enjoy that. But for every student that does email, there's probably 5 or 10 more that didn't go through that effort to email and reach out. And also think of those scenarios where, oh shoot, one of my classes conflicted, or I didn't have the override, or etc. And now I have to change things up. Now you're working really quickly to try and get registered within that window. And this is where the section descriptions would be immensely helpful. So this is also purpose of why I'm presenting to you tonight is to give me some student insights, things I haven't considered from the student perspective as why these are necessary to have, because then I can present them to the college associate deans when I meet with them, either in the coming weeks or next semester. So do think of your potential inputs there. Yes. So into the individual colleges, I'll breeze through these pretty quickly. So if at all you're interested, I broke them down by department, which departments did well. This is CALS. This was one of the higher ones. On the left side is it by alphabetical order of department. On the right side is by color order, or the ranking of their percentages. I see some surprised looks. This is fun. So this is CNHS. CAS is the big one, so this is just by order of how well they did. CAS did surprisingly well.
Doing very well. That sounds about right. Art history is right. Ooh. Damn, art history is just not doing too well.
Assessors, bunch of the work. So thank you all for
Nick, thank you so much for all your incredible work. It looks so amazing. It's so clear. I love it. I was a little curious, like Jake and I were talking. We only saw there were 5 ENSC environmental sciences courses, and they were all in Rubenstein, but there's some in CALS, I guess, and there's some in CAS. So there might be some
Point of information. CNGS, you can get a degree in CALS and CAS and Rubenstein, but all of the staff wants Rubenstein, correct?
It's all under the same
Yeah,
department.
it's all in the same department, even though you get the degree otherwise.
ENSC too.
That, they're all the same.
Regardless, yeah, I mean, I am still curious because it only said there were 5 courses then for ENSC under Rubenstein, which to me seems small. It could be accurate, I don't know. Yeah,
So this, where are we?
it's the first one. One more. Yeah, there we go.
So the number of Sierra, I believe, oh no, this is the total, you're right. When it comes to cross, this is one of the things I ran into as a potential hang-up / excuse, was those who were listed like cross college and stuff. So I don't know why, so the total might be different because some courses belong to a different college, so it isn't listed under Rubenstein, which I believe is what Grace was getting at. So yeah, that can skew data sometimes. Sometimes there were HCOL classes, or not HCOL, honors, HON, which is just, so every little bit of background, everyone in the honors college goes through a thesis, and then each college has its own separate HON block where honors students are taking their, thesis classes with, and so that's negatively impacted each of the colleges. But since it negatively impacted each of them equally, yes.
I think I have 2. I thought I had another question, but regardless, can you send me the link for the template for the UVM slideshow? I want to use. I can send that to you.
Yeah, there's a whole link of UVM style guide stuff.
That's what I did last summer. Okay. Senator.
All I have to say is I really appreciate all the work that went into this. It's really comprehensive and super informative. I had no idea. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Chair Gilman.
Thank you again so much, Senator Bouffard. I don't think you understand. I'm so passionate about section descriptions. So this is really pleasing for me to see. Just to kind of push on a point that you touched on in your presentation. I really think when you're presenting this to other constituents, it's really important to emphasize that we are a university that prioritizes making education accessible to everyone. And this is one way that we do that. So just something to keep in mind.
Super important, but I often think Europe does this, why can't we do it? Kind of thing. Most European schools have a little syllabus posted for each course description. So if you're presenting again to faculty or something, be like, hey, Europe does this, you should do it.
That is one of my other projects, course syllabi, and a quick plug for that is, yes, and other schools in the U.S. even have syllabi available during the time of registration, which is beautiful because you can be aware of what financial burdens are going to come from the classes you're taking. So that is another project of mine that I've been working on and will continue to work on. The sort of halfway goal of that is to have them at least by the end of the semester, so you can maybe buy your textbooks for selling them for cheap, or have more people to sell your textbooks to. So that would be at least beneficial there. The sort of pushback from the faculty side is that oftentimes, well, legitimately when you do make that, and I can actually rewind all the way back to the beginning to the legislation, it does say in here that somewhere in there that when you do submit your section description, it also needs, if it does have textbook information, then you are committing to using those textbooks because students may buy them right away and you cannot change that during the summer when you've read more books, which is what a lot of professors do. They do their reading over the summer, so it's very difficult to then make no changes. So, but this is something I will continue to push on. I don't know where to leave this, but so yeah, let's see. Did I answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Freeman.
Thank you so much for your work on this. I'm really disappointed in the political science department. With that being said, I think what my feeling, if you want to relate this to the staff, is that it makes professors think that, and it most likely means that I probably think of these professors in a pejorative sense, and I don't want to take their classes. So it just advertises them poorly from the beginning, and then I'm missing the chance to take classes with like renowned scholars because they didn't do a two-sentence piece of work that indicated their passion.
Senator Weinstein.
I remember what I was going to say. Two things really quick. Maybe making it so that if you don't upload a syllabus, I mean, even if classes are retaught every year, if you don't upload the syllabus, you're not allowed to put the course like listed. I think that would be a pretty easy way, especially for courses that are like going for multiple years. And also second, if there's any way to incentivize putting these expanded section descriptions for staff in like with legitimate ways, like not like a pizza party, but like something real, like I don't know, like going as far as like vacation days or something, like, you know, real world adult like that. That would be what I would like to see.
There was a suggestion by College of Arts and Sciences that should their description not be filled out, then until it is, then they have an enrollment cap set to 0. So I think that's a very strong incentive.
No.
It is
Big stick.
I also want to emphasize I'm not trying to go on the offensive here because we are not like
No carrots here.
faculty are not our opponents here. We are just trying to help them help us. Is what I'm going for. So that's where I'm coming from. But that is it.
Again, everyone's stealing my comments tonight. It was also going to be about incentives or like discipline and different.
Senator Cummings.
There's a lot of talk about syllabi being posted online, and I think that's really dangerous in asking faculty to do that because that's their intellectual labor, and to require them to post that opens them up to poaching of their work. And I definitely, if that's something that you want to, or any of you are really passionate about and want that to be posted, I recommend that you talk to faculty who work really hard on those syllabi because it's a lot more in many cases than just like, this is the textbook and we're going to read every chapter. It's like an argument.
That's also.
Senator DuBois.
Thank you for all the work you're doing. Touching on Senator Cox and Senator Cummings, I think those are two really great points. I think aim high and ask for the full syllabi. Why not? If they don't want to give the whole thing, at least give us what text mix you're going to use, what kind of assignments you might assign, just like something. I get the syllabi thing. Ask for more than you expect, because that's what we did with the resolution with President United Foley.
Senator Serna.
Well, first off, thanks for doing all this work here. It's absolute stuff. I would say that sort of a comment and like a question. Comment first is like, if there's like some sort of like reminder system in place to do this, that'd be like, I think that'd be really helpful once you're driving participation in something that is mandatory, in the sense that like, when I think from a faculty member's perspective, like there's already like a lot that they have to be going through, and oftentimes this could be something that just sort of slips under the radar, even if it is something in a few sentences. So like, same thing like how we can have like deans or assistant deans or like any like members who are like sort of like doing all the communications with the faculty members. Say like maybe on a, let's say prior to the 2 weeks to have like a monthly process, and just be like, hey, let's say every Friday before that, hey, have you filled out your expanded course description? Hey, this is in your contract. You have to do this. Hey, students depend on this. Not as passive aggressive, but anyway, other question is sort of related to a little bit more. Is there like some sort of like you kind of put this at like the common meeting with like putting enrollment in zero, but is there some sort of like punishment for not doing it?
Yeah, so there is no current punishment in place. It was something that I believe Senator Weinstein was mentioning before of having that like go for their vacation days or something. There is no current like punishment in place aside from the fact that if you don't have a section description in place, then it's like you're less likely to get students. I imagine that's the case. I'm not sure how you all use section descriptions. One of the things that we're hoping to do data collection-wise in the future is to have site counters on, to show the faculty, hey, look, X many students, or your section description has X many views, which I think would be very helpful in sort of incentivizing that. What I was trying to pull up just now was what it looks like from the faculty perspective, and it might work. It did just work on my computer, so I'm curious what was going wrong there. Maybe I spelled my name wrong. But if you all can see this, perhaps not, this big colorful thing in the top right, if I turn my brightness all the way up, this is what the faculty webpage looks like from their MyUVM portal, and they have a big old block right here that says, it's time to enter your expanded section descriptions. Assuming they go on to this, they should see that. If they don't go on to MyUVM, we did add a notice to the top of the blackboard to remind them as well. Brian Reed, now Jen Dickinson, will sends out a reminder email every semester, if not 2 or more. And then part of my meetings with the college deans is to get them to send out reminders. So I don't think it's for lack of reminders. I think it's more of it's more of the energy to do it isn't there. The real the need. And if it's always a back burner issue, then it's always just going to be pushed to the mat. So we need to make that front.
Point of information, sorry, I meant more incentivize them positively,
right?
Just giving them more vacation days, the colleges that have the highest percentage. I don't want to take away from vacation days.
Senator May. Senator Eastbury. Any further comments, questions? Chair Dana.
I just want to say, shout out to Nick Bouffard. You've been doing this for a while. Yes, he's amazing. You guys with every single college need.
One final note that did come up is that some of the colleges were hesitant to enforce their not necessarily hesitant, or they saw pushback from their faculty because, for example, the College of Nursing and Health Sciences, they said, well, all of our classes are required. All of our students are going to be taking these classes. Why should they have to have section descriptions? They did say we will push them to do so, but we are getting this feedback. So I presented the idea that, well, students, one should know what they're getting into, regardless of whether they're in that major or not, because I think if you're looking ahead in your major and you want to see what is to come, and you see a description that really scares you away, that can be valuable information. Again, the whole workshop is thing. So I don't know if there are any sentiments related to that. There was also, oh, well, this is a very structured major. Why should they need that? It's a similar thing outside with the exception of College of Nursing and Health Sciences, most classes can be taken, by people in other colleges. It could be their minor or something. So that's also need for section description. So you have some on that. Senator Short. Senator.
So just as a student in CNHS, I think I'm the only one here. Okay. Anyway, I think one thing that's really specific, that just something that you, if you meet them again, you might want to talk about, that I think is really special that CNHS does, is you're required to meet with somebody in the advising office for registration. They put a registration form on your account, and you go to a meeting with a bunch of other people in your major, and you talk about the classes, and so you are they set aside an hour of a bunch of people's time to do it anyway, and it's the same classes being offered every single year. The majors are required to. So I think a point if this becomes an issue with them to bring up is that you're already taking physical time and space to do it, so you might as well also take up what you're saying.
General comments. That's wonderful. Wonderful use of advising.
All right, I said it last week and I'll say it again. Starting today, going until May 3rd, is the Swipe Out Hunger Drive. If you have any guest swipes that we're not going to be using within the next 2 weeks, please go donate. They are going to be standing in central dining near the entrance. That's by CCRH. Even if you are not experiencing food insecurity, or someone you know isn't, or you don't know anyone who's experiencing food insecurity, doesn't mean it's not happening here on campus. Please help.
Just a reminder, if you're interested in Move-In Day or the Leadership Conference, talk to me after, as well as I forgot to welcome Courtney, who's our new SGA Scratchley. She'll be serving as Scratchley the rest of this meeting and also next year. Last semester, and she's wonderful and she's going to be a great
Happy to have her back.
If you're looking for something to do on Friday afternoon, the UVM Dance Department has their end of the semester, not presentation, showcase performance. All the classes are open to perform, and I'm in 2 of those classes. It's at 4 p.m. in the South Wing Ballroom. It's a fun study break.
I'm speaking a lot tonight, I'm sorry. Wednesday night, tomorrow night is Wings Fest. So that will be in the L&L Fireplace Lounge. In the past, when I hosted it, there were vegan options, so I imagine that will be the same case now. Yeah, they have ordered somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 chicken wings. So show up. Yes, it's free. It's in the evening. I don't know a time. Probably like 6 and 7 are safe times to go.
First things to get before passing our resolution. Love all of y'all for doing that. If anybody wants to actually help out with this, please see me after. Second bit is that Friday morning, between 9 and 11, the UVM International Community is hosting their monthly International Student Waffle Breakfast, where everybody can come together, just chillax, make some waffles, and then put everything on top of it. It's whipped cream, chocolate chips, fruit salad, all that. And they ordered a lot of Nutella, so come on over, and then later go to Lexington to dance with us.
What's the time on that?
9 through 11.
Don't all go, it will overwhelm them.
But
Don't have the space.
please,
Go.
please.
Don't all
Senator Doherty.
One person.
I don't really have a cool event to share, but I just wanted to say I super need a place to live during fall next semester. So if anyone knows any cool people who are selling just fall, okay. I don't even know if this is an appropriate thing to bring up, but okay. Alright. So yeah, let me know. Also, comment on all those events you guys just shared. It seemed really cool. Could you guys post them on Facebook?
Post it on the calendar!
Hey y'all, I posted this on Facebook, but I just want to say it again on behalf of the Health Collective. By the 3rd, okay, May 6th latest, they wanted by May 3rd, you can sign up to get an ID inserted on campus. This is really exciting, I just want to say why. Reproductive health for women is under attack in this country all the time. So for our university and for our student reps to take the initiative to make sure that birth control is available for free on campus is a really special opportunity. So if that's something that you're interested in or have questions about, I can connect you to Planned Parenthood folks. Just happening anytime.
Reminder, tell your club signer friends, re-register on the links by Friday. That is all.
Any further senatorial comments?
I just checked the weather. Next Wednesday is supposed to be great, and next Wednesday's our reading day. So if anybody wants to de-stress or do anything, let me know.
Further comments? No?
No, I don't know.
Seeing none, chairs, please take your final roll.
Motion.